Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is Jason with OTPG on to Play Games, and we're going to be talking about the weekend competitive scene. That's right, we have our sectors in Indianapolis, and we also have the Planetary Qualifiers that were done this weekend. We've got a couple of different stats to look at when it comes to tournaments. Those are going to be ones that are 32 players or more, and then just like all events that happened at the competitive level that could earn you qualifying points for next year's Galactic Championships in Disneyland, California. This weekend was really rough to watch. I did do one thing that most of you don't necessarily get a chance to do, and at this point in the meta, probably I shouldn't do, and that is watch the entirety of the coverage for the sector qualifier, Indianapolis. And it was Cad Bane's world, and we were just living in it. It was nice to see other decks out there. As a matter of fact, I applaud anyone who didn't bring Cad Bane because it was everywhere. It was insane how many went to the top 64. When you look at the top 16, it gets even crazier. Like over 50% of the top 16 were Cad Bane. When you get in the top 8, it's like 62.5% of the top 8. And then we're going to talk about some other things that may be contributing that we hope FFG like doesn't just address Cad Bane, but addresses the problem in the meta in a way that makes it more enjoyable and more variety can come to the table and people can play the leaders they love and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's always going to be a best leader, right? Or a handful of leaders that are top notch, but to have one that's as, doing as well as Cad Bane is doing, and then to have certain cards being played at the rates they're being played at, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get to that, just want to let you know that YouTube analytics is showing that about 88% of viewers are not subscribers. So please do us a favor and push that subscribe button. Watch a few more minutes of the videos so that we can get to those monetization benchmarks that YouTube puts in front of us. We are getting ready to see a double the requirement come next February. YouTube's really getting ready to hit us all really tough on that. But this is all a passion project of mine, and I just want to keep being able to bring content to you and do it in a fun and inexpensive way, and it's a learning experience for me. I just continuously try to keep leaning into it and working on frames and things like that. You can see some of the changes that have happened in the last couple of months as we kind of continue to grow, and I want to thank everyone that has already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, invite the subscribe button to the clone facilities at Camino and let them know that they're doing a tour of the facilities and schedule the tour right before the Imperial fleet comes in and bombs the clones into obliteration. But as we go back to the main point, and that is our sector qualifier and our planetary qualifiers, and we are going to start with the sector qualifier. All right. And real quick, actually, we're going to start with the meta. These are just tournaments that are 32 players or larger. And you can see, I think it was last week was 13. Cad Bane's put on another 6. There are 3 times as many Cad Bane wins as there are for the next highest winning leader. And that's Luke Jump to Lightspeed. That is awful. That is so skewed in a way that there has to be something done about that. Going a little bit deeper, when you take a look at your top bases, you're seeing that a lot of people are pairing the cunning base. So that means they have a leader that has a different color outside of vigilance. And I said cunning base, sorry, vigilance is what I meant to say. They have a leader outside of vigilance, but they're splashing to vigilance because there's something about blue that just is that good. When you look at the combinations of leader and base that make it in the top 8s, 35%, and we're starting to march up to 36%, are incorporating vigilance in their aspects. Then look down at the villainy side. I said it before, it's going to be a villainous season. It's definitely panning out to be that way. The heroic decks are being more suppressed, and the villainy decks are rising even further. We're now up to almost 68% of top aspects or leader aspects right there. Okay. Villainy leaders are owning this meta. It is really, really wild what all is going on in this particular meta. It just really is. And it's fun to see. It is. It's fun to see it pan out in a very similar fashion to what I thought it would pan out to be. But these, when we're looking at villainy side leaders dominating the way they are, especially, after Berlin was won by a heroic, the Mandalorian, it really makes you wonder, what is going on? All right. And if we do take Cad Bane out of the mix, that will probably bring it down to something closer to like 50% villainy, and maybe 55% villainy. So we have like a 45-55 kind of scenario. That'd be at least acceptable, right? So look for something to happen with the villainy leaders. We all are kind of rooting that Cad gets suspended, and I'm right there too. I haven't ever gotten a chance to play with him. Didn't really want to play with him, but I do think that there are some other leaders that are lurking in the wings that are well positioned to kind of slip in there. One being Maul. We're going to take a look at a Maul list that was at the Indianapolis Sector Qualifier and kind of see, like, how far is it from a Cad Bane list, really? So the tournaments, we are going to look at the Sector Qualifier first in Indianapolis, but I'm going to also be looking at some other events, but I'm going to stay away from the ones that were won by Cad. So I'm going to be looking at exclusively events that had 40 or more players and won by something other than Cad Bane. We know Cad Bane's good. We know Cad Bane's probably going. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Cad Bane's wins, okay? We may see them in the, Cad Bane's in the finals in some of these that we're going to review, but really, I'm not that interested in planetary qualifiers and such that were won by Cad Bane. All right, with that said, let's take a look at the Sector Qualifier, Indianapolis. And as you can see here, 62.5% of the top 8 is Cad Bane. That is awful. However, what'll make you feel even worse is that 87.5% of the possible slots that Chimera could have filled in the top 8 were filled by Chimera. 21 out of 24 slots. That is something that I hope FFG addresses somehow. Buckets where you can play, if you play Chimera, you can't play something else. Restrict it down to 1, which I don't think is going to really do too much. Just Lando and Mando take over then with Chimera's off aspect, and everybody else is just playing random number generators. Erratas just don't seem to be where anybody wants to be. That's where I would go, but I'm just one person. But let me show you something here with Luke Skywalker. Chimera. Even Luke Skywalker 8 has now succumbed, has stooped so low to have Chimera in the main deck of their list. And that, if that doesn't say something, I don't know what does. It really needs to go. All right. I checked the Lando. They got 3 of them. I checked this Lando. It's got 3. The only one that doesn't is Ahsoka. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that Ahsoka doesn't throw it in there too. Give it some late game, right? No. All seriousness aside, take a look at the top 16. Again, we've got another 4 Cad Banes. So that takes us up to 9 Cad Banes in the top 16. So it's over half of the top 16. So this event and you get down here. Yep. So day 2 had, let me bring this in a little bit. Day 2, 33.3% of the day 2 meta was CAD. The top 16 over 50%, and the top 8, 87.5. So that says a lot. Okay, yes, 31% of the total meta was Cad Bane, and that also says a whole lot. That people are slowly but surely gravitating over to Cad Bane because it's just that good. But is that what we want? As players, do we want to have a deck that represents 31% of the meta, represent 33% of the meta in day 2, represent over 50% of the meta in the top 16, and 87.5% of the meta in the top 8? That's just too much. Do we want to look at the number of chimeras and previslas that were played and look at how those track across the top 64 and the top 16 and into the top 8? We do know that in the top 8, I did the math here. It's 87.5% of the top 8. What was the? Hold on, I did something. I misspoke here. Clear. 62.5 of the top 8. My bad. It was Cad Bane. I was mixing up my Chimera statistics with my Cad Bane statistics. 62% of the 62.5% of the top 8 was Cad Bane. So track that. 31% enter, make up the meta field. 33% get to day 2. Over 50% are in the top 16, and 62.5% are your top 8. And then Chimera is making up 87.5% of the possible slots that it could fill. That's too much. And then here's where I want everyone to kind of think that, if Cad Bane is the problem, well, then tell me, except for the fact that this list has to play some force units, okay, just to get the force going. It's got 2 chimeras. It's got 3 nice sisters. It's got 3 previslas. The previslas and the chimeras. I mean, it could play 3 chimeras if it wanted to, and just not play the Devastator. I don't see why not. It's got the planetary bombardments in the sideboard, so it's totally doable. And honestly, Devastator doesn't gain you life, and you got less life on your base with the Night Sisters layer. This deck doesn't have a whole lot of things that are different. However, it does have one piece of tech that I do think is spicy, and that is Jabba the Hutt. Yep, this 6-drop beauty is right where you want to be when you're looking at a field that's going to have one particular card in that particular leader, I should say, and that is your Luke Skywalker Jump the Light Speed pilot. It bounces it to your hand. Unfortunately, leader upgrade cannot go to the hand, so it is defeated and goes to the leader zone, and that is a nice, clean turn 5 when they deploy answer, forcing them into things like Synth Kaz to get full value out of their leader. You can't use the Outer Rim Constable to defeat it, obviously, so Jabba the Hutt plays a nice little role there. Also, it gives you the ability to take Darth Maul's lightsaber, and if it's already on a unit, you can attack with that unit, deploy Maul, play Jabba, return the Darth Maul lightsaber to your hand, put it onto Darth Maul, attacking with that, and that is 8 extra damage that you're getting from the Darth Maul lightsaber. That is pretty good. So, gotta say, that is some great tech that John Yellow put into play, and you'll actually see this. There's another Darth Maul list. I encourage you to take a look a little bit further down. I think it's around 19th place or something like that. Or is this the 19th place one? It is right here, 30th place. It actually has 2 of the Jabbas in the sideboard. So great tech. I love it. It is just a way for these force decks to fight off the space race. But look, 2 Chimeras and 3 Night Sisters, 3 Previslas. And we're looking at the same problem here, right? Same colors. It's just a little bit weaker unit so you can generate the force. That's all it is. Instead of being able to play things like 000 and Ogdo Bogdo, um, you're in Casca Reeves, you're kind of pushed into these corners with these other force units. And that's okay. Whatever. Deck's still doing really well. So just wanted to highlight those mall lists. Also, Aura Singh. I did a featured video on Aura Singh. Thought she was really great. I'm loving the salvages in this. And it's, yes, to bring back the chimeras and that kind of stuff, but also Trask Walker comes back as well. So really, really like the salvage as a 2 of in there. Lots of people trying to knock cards out of your hand in this meta. That's just a way to fight it off. But you will see that it's got the 3 chimeras and the 3 Previslas in the list. By the way, Lots Razi is right back up to $20 for a basic frame. I do not think that is a sustainable, especially when we're getting ready to have the meta shake up. We may see a big change that could make it where there's more variety. And when there's more variety, we're not pigeonholed into like the 2 decks that play Lots Razi, or 3 decks, I guess, that are really doing well in the meta. So it's a good card, but just 4 weeks ago, it was a $4 or $5 card. And now they're sold out on TCG. There has been a buyout on TCG. If you don't own them already, which I hope you do, don't buy into that spike. I don't think it's sustainable. And even if it is, it's going to change after Home Worlds. It just will. All right. Next up, after we get kind of a breather here after looking at how much Cad Bane is there, let's take a look at the first one that wasn't won by Cad Bane. And, oh, look, Dedra versus Cad Bane. There were 3 Cad Banes in the top 8 here, another 2 Dedras, and, oh, look, Previsla, Chimera. Wow. Now, I do like this. This is kind of, right along the same lines of Mando. You are trying to draw more cards. It is an aggressive negotiations list, but it has access to those big, powerful cards lower on the curve. That's pretty solid. However, you do have to pay 1 to make that draw, and your opponent gets to make the choice. So not as consistent as the Mandalorian. However, it does tap into the right colors to play the best cards if FFG doesn't do anything about the actual units that are in the meta for Premier. Then we're going to see Dedra continue to do well and maybe go up a good bit. Luke Skywalker doing really well. Director Krennic using those chimeras as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decks use chimeras. So that's 18 out of 24. And that is going to be 75% of the top 8 slots that Chimera could fill. It did fill. So that's pretty crazy. Next up, sorry, I didn't introduce this correctly. This was Bella Skol Baila. Sorry, I butchered that. Poland. I apologize to my Polish friends for that butchering of your fine city. Montreal, Canada. This is 68 players, and this is like a breath of fresh air. We only have 1 Cad Bane. Yes, there is a decent amount of chimeras in this top 8, but Luke takes it over Mandalorian. There's a Maul list in there, so Force is getting some love. You've got Darth Vader, Director Krennic, Boba Fett. Just nice to see that Canada can bring some variety. There is one thing I'd like to point out. Why can't we put season 2 here, folks? Is there the they give you The image is for free, y'all. Next up, let's take a look at Greer. This one of my friends was there, and he was playing Maul, and we found that Maul is a little bit harder to play than you really think. But Mother Talzin takes the whole thing down, and this is pretty cool. Using the Devastators, staying away from the Pre-Vizslas and the Chimeras, and just doing it old school. With your Constructed Lightsaber and your Blade of Talzins, the Armor of Fortune, a plot card giving her just that much more toughness, and she already is such a hard unit to kill. Really, really impressive to see that. I would never have played that, to be honest. Whistling Bird's doing some work. We got a little bit of some information back from some people in Greer. Greer's in South Carolina, and where I'm from out of Charleston is also South Carolina. So get a little bit of communication there. And Whistling Birds was doing work, y'all. It really was. Using the Anakin Skywalker's awesome. Mirren, awesome. And in a deck that can't use Ogdo Bogdo effectively, Mirren's a pretty darn good choice. The B-Wing Rearguard, obviously these decks have a little bit of a problem with space, so just kind of shores it up a little bit. And you got an extra one here in the sideboard alongside your hyperspace. But, oh, look. You got Pre-Vizsla, but they're also teching into Jabba the Hutt. So really cool. It's using the same colors as Cad Bane. It goes with Jabba the Hutt. I think that Jabba Hutt's a great, great choice for this list. All right, and then I want to take a quick look at the Luke Skywalker. Now, this one doesn't use Chimera, thank goodness. But it's a more traditional, good Force Jedi, lots of Razzies and, Sentinels and Restore and all that good stuff, coupled with a resupply carry to get your leader out a turn early and kind of a surprise factor. Has a decent space package, but for a Data Vault deck, that is still kind of a light number of units. All right. It's not very strong in the space. A decent event removal package, and then a sideboard that has some things against space. It's got a little bit of ground clog, Galen Ursa to kind of, stop your opponent from making plays. I am a little surprised that there is not a Rey in this list, to be honest with you, because that has been a one of I've seen in a lot of the lists. But congratulations to BN's Falafel for taking it to the finals and getting that 50 points towards the Galactic Championship qualification. All right. Next up, we're going to look at Mobile, and that is right at the bubble, 40 people. This is Cad Bane versus Luke, and Luke took it. And a lot of people have been going to Luke because they feel like Luke Pilot is a good answer to Cad Bane. There's this kind of cliche, like, my deck can actually play well in a Cad Bane. Everybody's like, snickering. But Luke actually does do that pretty well. In this particular Luke, it's solid. It's aggressive negotiations there. You got your Chewbacca pilot in there, Admiral Akbar to restock the space if they somehow wipe it. And then you just got a plethora of solid space units to go with. So really, really good stuff there. Ostrom. And then the Cad Bane list, 3 Chimeras, 3 Pre-Vizslas. Where's the differences here? So differences here, BT1's at 3, Rancor Keeper at 1, the use of a sideboard mech instead of a second Anakin Skywalker, inclusion of Devastator in the main is a little bit different. And I do like the single reactor ignition. You are seeing some CADs kind of going that direction, and a 1 of Condemn instead of 2. Some of the main deck differences that you see, and 2 Night Sisters, 1 in the sideboard. All right. Next up, let's take a look at what Director Krennic got to say. And Ahsoka, and Dedra, and Piet, and Ahsoka again. And where is my Cad Bane? Well, Cad Bane did not get there in Bern, Switzerland. I do love the fact you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Half of this top 8 is heroic. And that stat I showed you earlier about heroic leaders being like 30% of the top 8 leaders. Well, this one here is what's keeping that 30% alive. If we had Cad Banes in place of those, we're looking at like 25% heroic leaders. But yeah, this one had 50 players. It had Director Krennic taking it. The Chimeras, they do the work. They really do. With the Previslas again, just killing it. This also utilizing Casca Reeves, the card draw of Ant Droid, Shinha T, and Imperial Door Technician. It's just got all the good stuff for your card draw units. And Enoch is one of those kind of like, if he draws the Enoch, he doesn't want to put a lot of investment in it because it does damage to your base. But if he finds himself, or if they, I should say, find themselves, Lucas Walter, I'm going to go with that Enoch can get you into Ravager really quick and into these bigger units, Chimeri and so forth. Ravager just being able to take over a game against these aggro decks or these more heroic decks that aren't going blue, that just don't have the ability to remove it. No glory only results and hyperspace disaster, craving power and condemn, and only 1 condemn in the list. That's a little surprising to see, since condemn was so strong in the coverage and featured matches at the sector qualifier. But I do love this list a lot. Might be a list that I try to put together if they don't ban Previsla and Chimera. All right, and then the Ahsoka. Ahsoka's just so cool. We're watching these Ahsoka players that really know their lines well and know how to set up their, turn 4 into turn 5. It's really, really cool to see them do it. It's so, so cool. The use of kill switch multiple times in featured matches of the sector qualifier to tap down a Cad Bane or to turn off the Sentinel from Murrick is just like, wow, just really cool what you're able to do with that. This deck has a lot of restore in it, the ability to put counters on things, but the main thing is what it's trying to do is get to that point where it's got like 2 units on the board. Ahsoka flips, throw out a Naboo starship, and a Jar Jar Binks, and just get to Pound Town. All right, nothing left to fear has been awesome as a removal spell and just helps push that extra damage. Ahsoka really doing well. And I think after Cad is kind of pushed out of the meta, Ahsoka's going to see some numbers. All right, which could support the idea of Lots Razi staying kind of expensive, but I still think Lots Razi's a trap right now. Next, after Burn, we're going to be looking at 94 players, and this is at Les Rouen, France. I probably butchered that. I apologize. And it was won by Luke Skywalker, and it's got 3 aggressive negotiations. Really, really good. Hot shot maneuver, air superiority to be able to interact with the ground, Admiral Akbar to rebuild the fleet. And I don't, and okay, there's the race Skywalker. I knew that, these lists, they go there because they get pushed there. And all they need to do is get Ray across one time usually because they've already done enough damage by the time a control deck can stop them, that if they're able to get the Ray down, claim, and attack with it, it's probably the end of the game. Great stuff. System Shock doing a lot of work there, especially with lots of Razzies and those kind of 1 toughness units that are out there that are Sentinel or just have 3 power, whatever. So then Cad Bane, but we got Ahsoka getting in there too. It's got a decent mix of heroic and villainy leaders. Darth Vader getting there as well, another top 8, but Darth Vader just has such a hard time, winning it. And I don't know if Darth Vader's market share goes up with Cad Bane going out of the meta. It might be just worse for Darth Vader, because Darth Vader was an okay matchup for Cad Bane, but it might do just fine. Next up is taking a look at the overview. Now, we talked about, 34%, I think it was. I'll just take a quick look. 44%. That's insane, y'all. That is insane. 44%, 19 wins, but that's just the ones that have 32 players or more. When you take a look at all of the competitive tournaments, so this is going to be both the sectors. I believe the Open is in this, the Galactic Championship, because that earned Pointsters Season 2, and all the Planetary Qualifiers, regardless of their size. Cad Bane has 25 wins. That is pretty wild when you look at the next number 2 has got 6. That's wild. Now, Luke kind of tapered off a little bit, but his win rate is really good. And then you look at the win rate here, Cad's been pretty much steady. Conversion rates were a little bit higher here. People started adjusting to it in the meta, but it's just stayed steady right on through. All right. The current matrix with those same tournaments that I mentioned before being involved, total, look at that block of green. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of the top decks Cad has not just a favorable matchup. The lowest on here is 55.5 in that block, and goes up to 70% win rate. That is crazy and needs to be addressed. But is it just Cad Bane? Or will just something else use similar cards and get there? Well, we take a look over here at Swoo Base. We see that Cad's more than twice the meta of the second most played deck in Ahsoka Tano. And then when we take a look at card stats, we see that Chimera and Previs are the top 2 units being played, right above Casca Reeves, and the top 2 events being played, no glory only results, aggressive negotiations. In fact, you can pretty much, with the exception of like 2 cards here, build your Cad Bane deck from the top 24 cards. And it kind of continues to be real. So that is really what we're facing here as we look to tomorrow, because this is, well, technically it's today right now. This is a late night recording. And tomorrow's announcements from FFG about what they're going to do to balance this meta out a little bit and to allow some other leaders to be able to get some of that meta share. Okay. Yes, there's always going to be a top dog. Yes, there's always going to be best cards in slot, that kind of stuff. But it is a little bit absurd when 87.5% of the sector qualifier top 8 slots, that's 24 of them for any one card, are filled with the same card. 21 out of 24. That's a little bit much. And just about any other TCG that I've ever played in the past, when it gets to those kind of numbers, that card is gone. It is gone. Sometimes emergency ban. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, thank you so much. We are going to be doing a tournament online league once a week. You get a match, meet up with your opponent during that week and play either online. If you live near them, great. So invite your friends. We got 5 people in currently this Sunday. So 5 days, or in 5 days, we will fire off the first round. And it's wide open. There's no prizes. We're just doing this for fun to see, gauge interest. There may be, prizes given away in the future. There'll always be free tournaments though, and because we just want people to play, and you get to switch your deck between weeks. Okay, and if you get your opponent to agree to play Eternal, because that is a supported format on Carabas, cool, play Eternal that week. It's not about, it's a round robin. It's not bracketed, not Swiss rounds. So if you made it this far, that's your little nugget of information. I'm going to let people that didn't get this far know about it later on the week, and we'll see if we can fill in those 16 spots. And who knows, maybe I will give something away. I always try to do something. So with that said, whether it's day or night, may the force be with you. And until the next one, have a blessed one. Thank you very much.